And we should be live on across our socials. So thank you for tuning in, guys. Welcome and Merry almost Christmas. I'm joined today by Mark. Mark's a Chief Product Officer, Chief Technology Officer, Fractional CTO, CPO. He runs his own business or businesses. Very lucky to have you and thank you for your time. Mark, I wondered if you're here to talk a little bit about your experience on the Reignite Pro program and a little bit about your journey, particularly on the health and performance front. But I wonder if you could just kick us off with a bit of an introduction to who you are, what
Sure.
you do, and a little bit of background.
Sure. Yeah. So, hi everyone. Mark. My background is actually originally software engineering, astrophysics. Super interesting, but doesn't pay very well. So I got headhunted into the city about 23 years ago. Spent majority of my career there, originally building technology, so statistical algorithmic trading systems for investment banks. Then ended up running the tech and then running effectively electronic trading globally for a large financial institution, big corporate. Left that world in 2020, set my own business up, an innovation consultancy, and that went surprisingly well, given we were in the middle of COVID. And then I think fast forward, I had an absolutely cracking year last year. Formed a JV with a friend of mine and business associate that we collaborated on a couple of projects that went really well. They said, let's do more of this. So we set up this JV. Came into this year feeling very confident, big pipeline, and then hit my first major challenge as an entrepreneur. Running my own business and not having the safety net of big corporate anymore. We had over £1 million committed in terms of committed pipeline. None of it converted. None of it. We were 6 months in and like no money was coming in, and got to 7 months, 8 months, and my business partner unfortunately just had to step away from the business, and I was kind of left holding the baby, as it were, in a situation with a business that wasn't generating any income, and just didn't seem to matter what I was doing, just didn't seem to be getting anywhere. And then the sort of, if you like, I just checked out, started procrastinating, just accepting the situation. And of course the situation just kind of got worse. And I just realized that, that I was in a bit of a rut, that I was up against the wall. First major challenge, as I say, of being my own boss, and just needed some help. Came across Alex, spoke to him, and just decided to make a commitment to myself, in terms of like, I need to move this forward, right? Because it wasn't sitting well with me, like feeling this way and acting this way. I was just not feeling good in myself, and something had to change. And so, I spoke to Alex, joined the program, and it's night and day. And I'm not just saying that. It's like 3 months on, it's like my business has completely turned around. I've relaunched a business, super focused. It's going super well. Got a load of business already booked in for next year. And I was just saying to Alex earlier, it's like I've got 3 other proposals that we're putting together this week, for new business too. And nothing's changed in terms of what I do, other than what has changed is my attitude. It's like that's what's changed. And I have to say, it's come as a direct result of working with Alex. So that's been awesome. And so there's obviously the business performance, but I think what's fueled that is the physical aspect as well. Getting physically fitter, energy levels up, has really helped me kind of focus on achieving that kind of those business goals.
Awesome to hear that, Mark. And it's fantastic kind of seeing where you are now, and what's just around the corner, using 2024 as like a stepping stone into that year and beyond. I think it's going to be fantastic kind of year and couple of years for you. But if we cast our mind back to just before you actually signed up to the program, you talked about being in a place where you had a business that was successful in 2022, but hasn't bringing in income for 7, 8, 9 months. There's some financial concerns there. There's maybe your health, I think, wasn't in the greatest of places. Like, what was what was happening at that point? Like, how were you feeling in yourself? But before I kind of even, or we started talking, what was that like?
Yeah. Well, I think it was, like I was being pretty down on myself, and it was just kind of perpetuating this loop, right? The sort of the more I was being down on myself, the less I was doing, and just kind of got caught in that cycle. And then, sort of, I've always been somebody who sort of exercised regularly, and I was still sort of exercising, but didn't really know how to do that kind of properly. And my diet was all over the place as well. So a bit of comfort eating creeping in, so just generally like not looking after myself, and I think again, like low energy levels, low motivation, procrastinating, not making the right decisions for myself, and just hope, almost sticking my head in the sand, just hoping it would get better, which, obviously it wasn't unless I decided to do something. So, and I think that was the key thing to me, like that light bulb moment. I've had a few of those, over my career, and personally it's like, hang on a second, this is on you. You need to do something,
Awesome. Okay. And so you decided to take some action despite, being in a place where, like we talked about, going from a place where you're financially secure to not being in the best place financially, but then deciding to still invest in yourself. Like,
yeah.
Talk me through, if you will, like what was going through your head at that point?
Yeah. And I think it was that. It was like, we spoke, and, and again, it's sort of, I'm a really, really good judge of character, and it's like, we connected, and I was just like, yep. And so it really wasn't a decision. It's like, have I really got the money? No, but what happens if I don't, right? If I don't do something, like nothing changes, so you're right. And I think the key to it was me seeing it as an investment in myself, and I think that was the kind of game changer in terms of like actually the motivation to do this was like, that's what I need to do. I need to invest in myself, and demonstrate to myself that I'm worth, like picking myself up and doing the next thing, whatever that was, by the way, because I didn't know what it was when we came into this. We had a brief conversation. I kind of had a basic understanding, but it was, and obviously it's turned out to be the right decision,
How does that, again, if you cast your mind back to how you were sort of feeling before we started working together, like, was that permeating, or did that kind of impact any other areas of your life at all?
Yeah, I mean, massively. Like, it impacted, like, say, my self-esteem, and then I think I genuinely believe, like, on an emotional level, we meet people where we're at. So, like, I'm not feeling good about myself, so I don't want to see people. My personal relationships were suffering. Romantic relationship was like, sort of not doing well. Not really speaking to friends, not really speaking to family, isolating. I think there's a lot of shame associated with it as well. I've come from a pretty high flying or successful corporate career, had the prestige and the responsibility. And then here I am on my own, no one to turn to almost. You know what I mean? So it was a question of like realizing that, as I say, that, it's only me that can get me out of this, and having to dig deep, against against myself. Myself is saying, don't do this. But on one side, I'm saying, I need to do this. And so, as I say, there's been critical moments in my life where I've had to come to similar decisions, and, and I think, let's call it a moment of clarity, having those moments of clarity where you need to make the right decision for yourself, and this was one of them.
Awesome. And if we talk about sort of challenges, right, that you were facing into, what was actually, if you can pinpoint, what was the one or two sort of biggest struggles that you were having, on the collectively across all fronts, but business health, like what were those?
It was just a lack of belief in myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, the self-esteem was on the floor. Genuinely, my core belief was that you just can't do this. You're not capable of running your own business. You're not capable of being your own boss. You're not capable of, or actually deserving of, running a successful business. And when you've got that kind of narrative, and it was really strong, it's really difficult to kind of pull yourself out, because you're talking to yourself, right? And so the very thing that you're asking for advice is giving you the wrong advice. So it's sort of becomes a bit of an echo chamber of negativity, you know.
And so stepping into the program, what was your expectation coming in? Like, I'm curious, right? Like, what was your expectation coming in, and then how was at the end of the program? How was that the same or different?
Yeah, I think, and I think we talked about this, Alex. I think the biggest thing for me was, like, when I came into it, was not thinking like, you know, I'm going to lose this weight. I'm going to start to get the sort of physique I'm looking for. I'm starting to get focused in terms of a business. My personal relationships have improved. It was like the accountability. I just needed someone to hold me accountable initially, you know, someone to not hold my hand, but like someone who was going to go like, why haven't you done this? Do you know what I mean? Why are you not doing this? You know, to really kind of call me out, you know, because and that was so useful, especially in the first, you know, few weeks or so, because, you know, it was a radical departure from how I've been living for the previous sort of 6 months or so, you know. And I think those behaviors become so ingrained. It's quite difficult to you know, to suddenly just go, right, I'm going to do this. And I think if you just sort of given me a checklist sheet and gone, right, I'll just go away and do this and come back in 3 months, there's nothing would have happened, right? So it's, you know, it's like, you know, so I think that accountability was incredibly useful for me. And then obviously, you know, the weekly coaching sessions where, you know, I had to show up, and you're gonna call me out if I'm not doing this stuff. You're gonna call me out, right? And, you know, and slowly but surely, you start to hold yourself accountable, you know, as the change happens, you know.
Accountability is such a big point, right? And you kind of mentioned it a few times there. You also mentioned the belief changed, right? This kind of self-belief. Like, talk us through, like, actually, you know, practical terms, like what that means to you. Like, how did it happen, and what that kind of looks like?
I think it was sort of the incremental progress. Is like, you start to see incremental progress, and so you start to believe that you're capable of achieving, you know. And then obviously you do that from a kind of a physical level, but it starts to happen at an emotional level as well. So ultimately what happened is, you know, like, fundamentally the core belief about myself has changed, right? And, you know, I'm surprised it happened in 3 months. I have to say, you know, I'm surprised it happened in 3 months, but, you know, it did, you know. And actually, you know, I'm doing the Alex sales pitch here, but it's like, you know, it's sort of, you know, it is what it is.
Stop it.
Yeah, when did we finish? Like 4-6 weeks ago now? Like,
yeah, about that. Yeah.
Like, not one day am I not, I'm not sorry, I nearly swore there. Not one day am I not off this, right? Like, I'm on it every day, right? And the reason I'm on it every day is because of the way I feel about myself. And actually my belief every day is that I've got this, right? I'm going to do whatever I need to do to get where I need to go, you know?
So powerful.
Yeah.
Right? Really, really powerful. If you kind of look at the program then, so like Reignite Pro, like what was the same or what was different about it to things that you've maybe tried in the past?
I think it was the combination of the health and fitness as a, you know, like, to give me that kind of like energy to start to focus on the task in hand. And then, like I say, the accountability and the prioritization and the structure, you know, that's been great for me. I always thought I was quite a structured person. I'm definitely a lists person. I've always had lists, but actually, you know, like, making the time, you know, like, so Sundays, for instance, you know, like, structuring my week. I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, you know, sort of every hour of the day. And I block that time out and I make sure it's done, you know. And so that's where that sort of self-accountability comes again. But having the sort of the physical fitness, driving the energy levels, driving the focus, and the focus turns into, you know, implementing that structure and sticking to it, you know. And then all of that, you know, allows me to see the change. And then the change is what effectively has kind of allowed me to, if you like, reorganize, you know, the way I think about myself, you know.
Okay, nice. And you kind of mentioned structure there, like once or twice. Like, what was the structure of the program? What did that look like for you? You know, explain to anyone sort of watching, actually, what does a 90-day program entail, and what were the key highlights perhaps for you? Yeah.
So for me, it was like, it's quite, it's holistic. So for instance, there's the physical health stuff, and then there's the sort of the mindset stuff, which is the sort of psychological aspect, and then there's also sort of a spiritual angle to it as well, which is, you know, getting to that final stage of, you know, feeling like I have, you know, purpose and meaning in my life today, you know, because of a result of all of this. So my core belief has changed, you know, but what it means is I genuinely feel more fulfilled in my life, you know, and, you know, the meditation, you know, and the other sort of practices, mindset practices as well. So, you know, the physical, the kind of the mental, the critical thinking stuff, the psychology, and, you know, the spiritual aspect to it, you know, is together, you know, has achieved, you know, like the change. And so I think, you know, the way it worked was, you know, we started kind of relatively slowly and sort of built these things up over the weeks. So we got quicker and quicker and quicker, more. And so it wasn't too much to try and digest to start with. It was small changes to start with. And then we'd add some more small changes, and just slowly, you know, I slowly built it up, slowly built the exercise up, slowly changed the diet, implemented the, you know, the sort of the mindset exercises, the daily structure, the sort of stoicism, and then, you know, the meditation. You know, again, like once that was all in place, you know, it's just become a, I guess, like just a design for the way I'm going to live my life, right? And actually, I have to say, it's not a chore. Like, it's, even though the structure, it doesn't, I don't go, oh God, I've got to, you know, like, oh God, I've got to go to the gym. Oh God, I can't eat, you know, because it doesn't feel like a diet to me. Like, I don't feel like I'm dieting. I've just fundamentally changed the way I look at food, you know?
Awesome. Yeah, fantastic. And I think, you know, explaining like how things level up, and this, you know, use the word design there, you know, similar sort of word, I'd say like lifestyle system, the way in which we kind of develop that and the way in which we implement it is via Kaizen, you know, step by step, incrementally layering things on so that it doesn't become too much for the mind to get around. And when you can bank those small wins, you start to look forward to the next one, right?
Yeah.
And the next one and the next one, and you celebrate it almost to the point where you're almost like addicted to winning, right?
Yeah.
Rather than being addicted to any sort of negative emotions or stress or anything like that. It's like you just become addicted to winning, and like hearing some of the results that you've got. In fact, you know, let's touch on those, right? So in, excuse me, within 3 months, I think it was between 11 and 12 kilos of body fat that you lost, right?
Yeah.
So within 90 days, 11 to 12 kilos. From a business perspective, somewhere in the region of like 200 to maybe sort of 250K on the books for your business going into 2024, which is just awesome, right? And then, you know, broader than that, like a new vision defined for your life that has some key milestones, some goals against it that kind of acts as a bit of a roadmap. You know, achieving all of that within 90 days, like how does that make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, like, just, you know, I think the overarching emotion that came out of finishing it was, and I've never really felt this about myself, was, you know, pride, you know, not in an egotistical way, but I'm proud. I'm proud of what I've achieved and what I can achieve and who I am and what I'm going to become, you know, because it's still a journey, right? I'm still on it. You know, it's not a question of, okay, job done, you know, like, let's just call it a day. But yeah, it's interesting actually, because I've never really felt that kind of that true sense of pride, as I say, without ego. So it's not an egotistical approach. It's I just generally feel good about, you know, what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and myself, you know.
Awesome. I mean, so, you know, we can talk a little bit about maybe some of the commercial aspects of the business, you know, to go from 0 to $250,000 on the books in 3 months. Like, to talk us through maybe that and anything else that you're happy to share from your, you know, the next 3 years that you've got a vision for. Like, what does that look like for you?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was a really simple, you know, the original objective setting we did, Alex, you know, was just, you know, there was a weight target to get to. And then there was you know, obviously the two things we identified was, you know, I had to start earning some money. And so again, it was a question of, you know, just every day getting up saying, I need to do these things in order to get this back on track. And so I was looking for effectively to secure one fractional role And so what's actually happened is I've secured 2 fractional roles and 2 relatively large projects for my new business too. So the new business I've sort of refocused on my core strengths, going more from sort of digital products, which was what we were doing before, to focus on data and analytics, and obviously AI at the moment, but that's my background. So and the new offer, if you like, and that was part of something we worked on too over the course of that 3 months. So I had something, if you like, following on from securing the role. The next stage was to get the consulting business up and running, and actually, so both has happened. So secured the fractional roles, got myself financially secure, but in the same time, refocused the business, rebranded it, relaunched it, and I've already got 2 decent sized projects on the books, on top of the fractional work that I'm doing. And 3 other proposals this week as well. It's sort of like, it's crazy, So, but I generally believe, it's like when you're actually talking to clients, it's like this sort of new self-confidence, it comes across, right? It comes across in the way, you communicate with people. And I think it's the unsaid as well as the said. Like if I can get in a meeting, that job's mine, right? So the bit that I'm working on now is like getting the meeting, right? Because I know if I can get in a meeting, I get the work, So it's sort of, and that was a bit strange for me because it's not something I've done before, but it was a question of just doing the same stuff, right? It's okay. Well, what do I need to do? It's uncomfortable, but I'm just going to do it anyway. In terms of actually working on the acquisition piece. But now I'm really comfortable with that and how it's working. So.
I like that because one of the things we talked about during the coaching was getting uncomfortable, or getting comfortable rather, being uncomfortable. Right, so you were already charismatic, but now you carry like a presence, call it, going into those meetings. So it's just a case of getting in front of the people, the right people, and then your natural charisma, your natural presence that you bring with you takes over.
Yeah.
I wonder if don't know if we can single it down to one thing, but what's a key takeaway, or what's the most powerful sort of takeaway from the program for you?
Well, I thought, for me personally, as I say, it's just mindset. Fundamentally, my mindset has just completely changed as the way I look at myself, and that gets reflected in everything that I do now. I mean, there were some difficult exercises. Some of those exercises we did, we looked at what my core values were, and then had that sort of almost reflected back to me in the form of that eulogy. That was it was really hard, but to do that level of that depth of self-reflection, but actually, that was a changing moment for me, So, I mean, if I had to distill it down to, like the one thing I've got out of it is that self-belief,
Awesome. And I guess, just, I'm conscious of time and your time, but, maybe sort of finally, a lot of the guys that I speak to are doing well in their career, right? They're doing well in business. But for whatever reason, there's something that's missing. Sometimes it's health, sometimes it's connection and family. A lot of the time it's like energy, and frequently, or more frequently, it's linked to sort of vision and purpose. Like, what would you say to those people that are singularly focused on business and kind of do so at the expense of their own health, connections, values? What's the advice that you would give to those people?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be no prizes for what my answer is here, right? So it's like I've been there, right? I'm quite happy to admit I was a workaholic, and spent a lot of my corporate career putting that before everything else. Actually, it made an incredibly isolating, actually, and lonely experience. And so I think it wasn't a surprise, working on my own, when I came to that point, it was a realization of actually, how isolated and alone I actually felt, because I'd spent years, if you like, putting everything before the things that I now see as important, so business is important, of course, right? But also I think it's addressing all aspects of, of my life, in equal measure. So addressing, what I want to achieve as from a business perspective, what do I want to achieve from a physical and health perspective, which makes me feel good physically and in turn makes me feel good mentally as well. It's like that's one thing as well, that connection between my physical well-being and my mental well-being, like getting in the gym 4 or 5 times a week, and for myself, has a huge impact on my mental well-being as well, and then I think the third part is that meaning and purpose, and I'm rebuilding those connections with others, people that I care about. And actually going through the program, realized actually how important that connection was, and I'd lost it. I didn't realize how important as a core value that was to me, that connection with others, and I'd let that go. And so that's coming back slowly. That's probably the area that needs a lot of work. But hey, it's human beings, right? Of course, it's going to take time. You don't just drop back into people's lives and and that connection's there. It takes work, right? So, but relationship with my kids is much better. Relationship with my friends is much better. I'm enjoying my life.
Incredible journey, and thank you for coming on to share it, right? Really powerful stuff, and excited to see where you go in 2024, because I wouldn't say for the first time, but certainly in recent history, it's like you're consciously choosing where you want to go and what your future looks like. It's as you say, a life by design rather than a life by accident. And if we're conscious to what we value and the things that are important to us, and we appropriate the right amount of time to those, consciously striving to move forwards on the things that make us happy, it's like whatever success looks like for us, it's like we start to achieve it. So thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it. And very Merry Christmas to everyone that's tuned in.
Lovely.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.